Since the start of December, the Clippers have only lost one game with Kawhi Leonard in the lineup. That's right, Kawhi is 13-1 over the last 40 days, and it's primarily been a result of their team being unguardable in every sense of the word. Of course, with three talents like Kawhi, James Harden, and Paul George, you'd expect some pretty good output, but usually that comes with diminishing returns. What we're seeing right now, though, is that because these three all operate in different spots with their own set of strengths, but also happen to be so versatile, you can build an offense that opposing defenses just simply don't have an answer for. Harden's clearly the best playmaker of the three, so naturally that means the ball is in his hands more times than not. And the dude's been in phenomenal shape this season. You can see that initial change of speed to get by his man, and when Looney comes up to meet him, instead of settling for a mid-range jumper or going to a floater, he drives and jumps into his body to create separation, much like vintage Harden. Or here, where he throws his signature tween crossover combo to completely shift Hero as he bursts downhill, this time with nobody to stop him from an easy lay. Now, he obviously doesn't have that one-of-one burst that helped him to 36 points per game anymore, but some semblance of it, with the other stuff he's added, still makes him a nightmarish cover in isolation. Here, he's not able to get all the way around Murray, but does get him on his left hip, so he throws a shoulder into Murray's core while coming to a stop, and that sets up a short midi. And if defenders overplay these drives in an effort to protect the paint, he's got the step back three that's been absolute money this season. He's shooting over 43% on off the dribble threes, the highest mark of anyone who lands in the top 40 in attempts. That pull-up three-point shooting has made him nearly impossible to defend in the pick and roll. On a play like this where his man tries to go under the screen, that's virtually automatic offense. But when his defender chases him over the top, and the big leaves him with space to turn the corner, he'll get into the defense and make the right decision seemingly every single time. So what you'll see most of the time is a more aggressive coverage, putting two on the ball, or having the big linger a little longer than usual, to which he'll counter by making a pocket pass to his roller. And Zubac has the float game in his arsenal, so you're still getting a high percentage look. And because Harden's in such great shape, opposing defenses still have to worry about him forcing the issue. Like here, the big man is up and ready to meet him at the level, so when he instead rejects the screen, there's nobody left to protect the rim from an easy drive and dunk. This style of Harden ball is nothing new. I mean, he said it himself. He is a system. But while all of those isolations and high pick and rolls are taking place, what are Kawhi and PG doing to push the offense forward? Well, it's simple, they're spotting up. Just look at how much spacing is created by having those guys on either side. When Harden moves it over to George, he draws a closeout from not one, but two defenders. That leaves James with a free lane right to the paint, with Buddy Hield playing in between Kawhi and Zubac. Harden looks to Kawhi, sending Hield on a closeout, only to drop it into the big fella who draws a quick foul. It's a lot easier for Harden to put pressure on the rim when he's got shooters like that to kick it out to. Kawhi is shooting a stupid 48.8% on catch and shoot threes, so that's certainly not an option for the defense to give up. And here you're going to see Harden draw one of those aggressive pick and roll coverages. Watch George though. He immediately responds by relocating to the top of the key and filling that open space, and with nobody to close, he's able to comfortably step into one of his 44% catch and shoot threes. The Clippers actually really like to weaponize PG's shooting by running him off of screens. Take this play. It looks like they're setting up the pick and roll between Harden and Zoo, but Zoo instead runs past Klay to go screen Moody so that George can curl into space up top. Moody does a good job of defending it, but not quite good enough. Here's another one with the exact same setup. It looks like a high pick and roll until Harden hands it off to George, who's now going to get into a pick and roll himself. That shooting threat draws 2 to the ball, so he shovels it to Zoo for some more of that automatic float game. George is 6th in the NBA in off-screen possessions per game, and scores an incredibly efficient 1.15 points per opportunity. That's some high-quality offense, and it isn't just those quick-hitting threes. Here you're going to see RJ Barrett chase him over the top and off the line, to which he puts it on the deck and works his way to the paint for a pull-up jumper. And this time when he comes off the screen, he's left with all the space in the world to attack. So instead of settling for a jumper, he takes it all the way and jumps into rim protection for a tough finish plus the foul. Plays like that really highlight that although he's obviously not quite the same athlete he once was, he's still a great one, and he pairs that with an incredible handle, some really crafty scoring counters. All of a sudden you've got another big time on-ball scoring option. Here's a perimeter isolation where he first tries a drive right, gets cut off and pulls back into a drive left, then uses his length to set up some strides while fighting through contact with his strong upper body on his way to a layup. This one starts in a similar manner, with the initial drive right, but this time he immediately crosses back to his left, and notice how the defense loads up. You've got 2 guys waiting under the basket, help coming from his left hip, and his own man sitting on his right hip. So what does he do? Bumps Porter Jr. off his hip while coming to a stop, then spins into a beautiful fall-away jumper. He's really good at controlling his momentum to stop on a dime like that, meaning he pretty much always has access to the mid-range when he needs it, and that's big for a 6'8" creator. And much like Harden, if he's given enough space at the point of attack, he is comfortable stepping into off-the-dribble threes. The wrinkle with George though, that you don't get by running through Harden, is that he's just as effective setting up inside the arc. So they can run these clear out isolations, especially when he's got a smaller defender, and he'll generate some really good shots for himself. Not just that, but it also adds another way for the team to initiate half-court action. Like here where he sets up in the mid post, and Zoo's gonna set a down screen for Kawhi to move into open space near the free throw line and knock down a jumper of his own. Like George, Kawhi gets his fair share of opportunities running off of screens, where if given any sort of space, he'll let that thing fly. Most notably though, he's actually been by far the team's most efficient pick and roll scorer, and what he's looking to do is get to his spots in the mid-range. He plays a much more patient game in comparison to the other two, putting defenders in jail or pausing off of screens to read the defense, and he'll just hunt and hunt until he finds a shot that he likes, which is probably automatic. In addition to the in-between game, he's also a threat to turn the corner on drives, here actually faking the shovel pass to Zoo to move Olynyk out of his way before bursting into an open dunk. That ability to put pressure on the rim in turn creates more open threes, and who better than Paul George to be on the receiving end of those kickout passes. Kawhi's true bread and butter though is the inside the arc isolations. He's on a very short list of players who have completely mastered this area of the game. And the wrinkle with him is the low post. He's got a ridiculously strong lower body that allows him to get wherever it is he wants to go, with the ability to turn over either shoulder and score in a variety of ways. I'm not just talking about post-ups as a way to counter mismatches either. This time he's working against Julius Randle, who in his own right is very sturdy, yet still he has no problem getting to the front of the restricted area, throwing a little shimmy, and fading over his left shoulder for 2. When you have 3 offensive players this skilled who all have different strengths but are still so versatile, there's no limit to how many different ways you can use them, and Coach Ty Lue has made sure to take advantage of that. Here's one where they set up in the triangle offense, and because RJ's so worried about Kawhi posting up the smaller DiVincenzo, he overhelps, but all that does is leave George with a ton of room to step into a corner 3. They'll also set up Harden's pick and rolls by throwing in one of the wings to make it a 3-man action. This time it's a double drag with Kawhi setting the first screen, which gets him to step on Barnes, and nobody's gonna slow his momentum, so he just takes it all the way for 2. Here's an action that the Clippers like to run quite a bit. Kawhi's gonna start with the ball, hand it off to Zubac, and follow his own pass to set a screen for Harden to run into open space and receive a handoff of his own. This time the opposing big steps up to take away his drive, leaving Zoo open for a lob. And here's the exact same action, except you'll notice that they reverse the roles. Now Harden's handing it off and filling out space in the corner while Kawhi runs the 2-man game, the luxury of having such talented offensive stars. Kawhi draws 2 to the ball, Klay slides down to tag the roll, and now feels like a pretty good time to mention that Harden's shooting just under 43% on his catch and shoot threes. It just feels like with these 3 on the floor together, there's never a bad option. This play starts with PG setting a ball screen on Harden's man so that he can get a favorable switch, before immediately running to the opposite block so that he can set up for an isolation against the mismatch. Kawhi enters the ball and clears out so that there's nobody left to help as George turns and shoots over the top for 2. Since the start of December, the Big Three has played just under 240 minutes together. Their offensive rating during that time, 131. Cleaning the glass actually filters out garbage time, and in the database, there have been 124 different lineups to record at least 100 possessions. Of those 124, the Clippers unit of Harden, Kawhi, and PG, alongside Norman Powell and Zoo, has the 3rd best offense, scoring 141 points every 100 possessions. When you're capable of scoring like that, it's nearly impossible to lose, which probably explains the success with Kawhi. That's not even getting into the fact that they have been a very good defense with lots of versatility. So come playoff time, if everyone's available, we might just be looking at the best team in basketball. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of the Clippers. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.